Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hoops HQ show. Seth Davis along with Andy Katz. The madness of March is upon us. We are in the final home stretch, the final week of the regular season. Next week, we'll have all of the high major power conference tournaments, a lot of mid-major, low-major conference tournaments already getting underway. Bubble Watch is coming down the line. We're going to be joined a little bit later in the show by Grant McCasland, the head coach of the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Joined once again by my partner and great friend, Andy Katz, who joins us from Welsh Ryan Arena in Chicago, Illinois. He's going to be covering the Northwestern game later on Wednesday night for Big Ten Network. So you may hear some dribbling, you may hear some music, you may hear Red Panda warming up, whatever's going on there. Andy is on the scene, enshrouded by darkness and giving us the light. So speaking of darkness and light, Andy, on Tuesday night, let's take a look at Tempe, Arizona. The Kansas Jayhawks trying to get themselves right, get back into the fray. We don't have a Darren Peterson injury situation, but he did shoot 3 for 17 from the floor. They got blown out at Arizona State, one of the worst teams inside the Big 12, and Bill Self didn't see most of it because about midway through the first half, he got ejected, arguing a correctly bogus call against Peterson, but nonetheless, quick ejection by Doug Sermons. Self watches from the locker room. Kansas loses the game at Arizona State. Coming off that recent home loss to Cincinnati, all the tumult going around Darren Peterson. We don't need to talk about Darren Peterson's injury situation, Andy, but how concerned are you right now with the Kansas Jayhawks?
Very, very concerned. I mean, more than anything, it is their defense that has let them down. I mean, Arizona State has been struggling mightily. They've been incredibly inconsistent, and yet, I mean, it wasn't really a game in the second half. Arizona State continued to pull away. We'll get to Bobby Hurley momentarily, but yeah, I think I'm very concerned because so much of the narrative with Kansas for so long has been, well, Peterson playing, he's not playing. Now he's playing. Not an injury, not a flu, nothing. He's on the court. He's not playing well. They're out of sync, and they've got one game left, Kansas State. They should win it. They're another dysfunctional team that fired their coach. And then you go to the Big 12 tournament where you've got Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, Texas Tech, let alone UCF, which has already beat Kansas, BYU, which has the talent to beat anybody, even though they've been erratic themselves, and TCU. So there's so much in front of Kansas just to get on next week's event in Kansas City before we get to the NCAA tournament. So yeah, this thing has gone sideways, and I'm not convinced it can be rectified at this late stage.
Yeah, there's so much attention being paid to Peterson. A lot of it is over the top because he's a great player and he's going to be a top 3 draft pick. I don't know if he's still number 1. I don't know. I've been talking about there's issues with his injuries, but then there's also continuity that they've lost shuffling him in and out. I think part of the problem is, and I don't mean to disrespect the kid, but he's a very instinctive scorer. And he does have like decent assists. And by the way, he had 10 rebounds. I said he was 3 for 17. It was actually 3 for 18 in the game, 2 for 11 from 3. He did have 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 5 steals. So he's playing great individually. It's just not working as a whole. He's not doing a ton, I think, to make his guys better. There's a lot of standing around watching him. So again, it's not just blaming him, but it is late in the year to be figuring these things out. They've now lost 4 of the last 6. They did have the win over Houston at home, but they really weren't competitive at Arizona. I know they got it to within 2 early in the second half, but then the Wildcats just turned it on and blew them away. So it's just not where you want to be right now if you're Kansas. Now, on the flip side, it was the final home game of the season for Arizona State, and then presumably the final home game as a head coach for Bobby Hurley. He's in his 11th year at Arizona State, and we pretty much know. I've never seen a situation like this, Andy, and I wrote a story on Hoops HQ about Bobby Hurley last week. He's in the final year of his contract with no extension and no extension in sight, which makes it extremely hard to recruit. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I presume they don't fire him because they don't want to have to pay whatever meager buyout he has. How appealing, first of all, do you agree that this is a done deal? Is there any shot that maybe Tuesday night's win gives Bobby Hurley more time? But how viable do you think he is moving forward?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't see how he comes back. with no contract. And the only thing I would say is in this current climate of saying, oh, it hurts recruiting, everyone's recruiting new rosters, every season. So it's a little bit different, even if you're in your last year of your contract or you only have 1 year left in men's basketball, more men's basketball than college football, because you only really need, if you can get 6 or 7 really good players, then obviously you can take care of it. And yes, his post-game news conferences when they were losing weren't good at all. They were indicating that he was more than likely going to be gone. But hey, look, they're fighting for him. I was with that team in Maui. I thought they had a chance to be a potential NCAA tournament team, and they've had NCAA tournament like wins, obviously, during this stretch. So they're going out on a high. They're still playing hard for him. They're playing for themselves. Is he viable? I think if he wants to coach, sure, he can definitely coach. And maybe take a job that's, he was at the Buffalo level, if you will, something a little bit stepped down, maybe a little less stressful. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he is done with this part of his life, and maybe he's ends up sort of coming back and being a consultant with Dan, or just staying in Arizona and golfing and doing whatever. But he's accomplished a ton in the sport. He doesn't have to prove anything else. And I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't coach again, but he certainly could. And I do think the name still carries weight. And I think he's marketable still to this day.
Well, I can tell you for sure, having spoken with him many times about this, he wants to coach. He wants to coach next season. He's not turning his nose up on anything. He's been at the mid-major level. He can go back there. I think he wants to be at a place where they value him. They value basketball. I think it says a lot about him that these guys are still playing so hard for him, and Mo Odom and all these guys that they brought in, Pig Johnson. It's that was impressive to me. I think he's still a good coach, and I know he wants to coach somewhere next season, and I'd be quite surprised if he's not coaching somewhere. All right, we're going to do a quick look at the bubble. That's been a huge topic of conversation. Obviously, I encourage everybody to check out Brad Wachtel's Bracketology and Bubble Watch at Hoops HQ. Brad is as good of a bracketologist as there is out there. So, Andy, give me some bubble in, bubble out teams that you're watching that are playing their way in, playing their way out. What do you got?
Well, I will just say in a macro level, I think the bubble, and I know people say this every year, but it is really weak. I think it's another indication. I know you want to expand, but we would be rewarding mediocrity. I'm just letting you know that. And I really believe there are 14 teams, 10 to 14 teams, I'll give you that range, that in this final weekend of the season and into next week, and you pick any of the four of those 10 to 14 as the last four in, I wouldn't be shocked at all. They're all in this big group. In terms of separation right now, Ohio State, with their win over Purdue, to me, they are off of the bubble, and into the field for now. And I wouldn't say they have the Indiana game's an elimination game, or Penn State as we're taping this, where they still have to go. They still need to get wins, no question. They can't just completely fall flat. But as we are talking right now, after that Purdue win, I would have Ohio State in. So bubble out, a lot of buzz about Auburn. They did have a win on Tuesday night, but they've still lost, I think it's 7 of their last 9. I do not think they have proven that they are an NCAA tournament team at this point. Doesn't mean they can't, because in the SEC, you're going to have opportunities. So I would take them out. I would also say in the Mountain West, Utah State lost again. San Diego State lost. New Mexico, they've been sort of the most consistent team, believe it or not, over the last couple of weeks. And if I had to pick one team to get in, I would pick them. And in years past, we've seen the Mountain West get like 4 or 5 teams. This may be a year where they only get one team in. And then back out to the WCC, St. Mary's with the win over Gonzaga, I think they're safely in. Santa Clara has the metrics. I don't know if they should be in the field, though, right now, yet they are sort of in by default. And so, I think if you gave me a choice, as an example, of Santa Clara or Indiana, I would take Indiana. And I think Indiana still can get in, even though the metrics may say Santa Clara. I think Indiana would get in over them. But that's what we're talking about here. Teams that all have warts, and it's going to come down to sort of what happens in the last week and a half, if some of them can get a couple of quality wins, or at least one more quality win to compare against the others.
Well, I'll tell you this, Auburn as a bubble team has a lot more quality wins than a lot of these other bubble teams. They just have a lot of losses. If they can win in Alabama on Saturday, then they could put themselves back on the right side. Real quick for me, Andy, to me, there's bubble teams that need good wins, and then there's bubble teams that need to avoid bad losses. I think TCU, with that win at Texas Tech, has pretty much put themselves in the field playing for seed. You're talking about neutral court wins over Florida and Wisconsin. They beat Iowa State, and they also have road wins, Texas Tech at Baylor. They had that quad 4 lost to New Orleans in their home opener, but 5-7 in quad one, I think puts them in. UCLA, I think, has now put themselves in great position with that home win over Nebraska. Their issue is all the good wins are at home. Illinois, Purdue, Nebraska. Their best road win is at Washington. Their game at USC on Saturday is a quad one game, and they're 4-8 in quad one. But I'm very impressed with what Mick has done here these last couple of weeks. I think getting Sky Clark back and in the fold. And then this game between Indiana and Ohio State in Columbus on Saturday, I think is basically an elimination game for Indiana. That home loss to Northwestern was an absolute killer. Let me just say this to our viewers, Andy, because everyone focuses in on the quad one record. The most underrated stat in all of this is combined record against quads 1 and 2. That got North Carolina in last year because they were 1-12 against quad 1, but they had a great record. They were undefeated in quad 2, and you combine those two categories and you stack them against all the other bubble teams, that can really tell you what's going on because that's essentially the field. Indiana's 2-11 right now against quad 1 and only 2-1 against quad 2. So 4-12 in those two, 48 wins above bubble, not good enough. If they don't win at Ohio State, I think they have to win the Big Ten tournament to get to the NCAA tournament.
Wait, I can't let that lie. I can't let that lie. You can't have an elimination game before the Big Ten tournament. Because if they lose Ohio State and then win a couple games, not even winning the tournament, but win a couple of quad one type games in Chicago, they still get in.
It probably won't be relevant, but I'm telling you, if they lose at Ohio State, I think they have to win. I'd be happy to be wrong. But your point is very well taken. All right, this is what's so much fun about this time of year: the arguments, the debates, and like I said, follow Brad Wachtel's work at Hoops HQ. We'll be back with Grant McCasland on the Hoops HQ show right after this. And we are very pleased to be joined on the Hoops HQ show by the head coach of the Texas Tech Red Raiders, Mr. Grant McCasland. He is not wearing the jacket for us. He had other big-time obligations. If it was up to him, he'd be all scruffy and in a T-shirt. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon. On Tuesday night, Texas Tech lost at home to TCU. Grant, why don't we just start there? The very sort of facile outsider's interpretation of this is you go 3-0 without JT Toppin, but at some point, not having your best player was going to catch up with you. Was this kind of a catch up with you game in this loss to TCU?
Yeah, and let's give TCU credit. And, we talk about the NCAA tournament and everybody says matchups, and I'm being honest, it's not a great matchup for us. I mean, they're a great offensive rebounding team right now. And when people ask me about the JT Toppin whole, what's it going to be like playing without him? I was really concerned about our perimeter defense. I mean, our paint defense, and JT's just rebounding because he's such a physical guy, such an elite rebounder. It just really concerned me, those things. And that's what TCU's great at, man.
16 offensive rebounds. I mean, I guess the question would be, how do you fix that? Because we know that JT's done for the year.
Yeah, but what I will tell you is, I mean, we still played against Iowa State and Cincinnati, who I think they're both physical teams too. So it wasn't like we can't do it. I think what we saw was their guards actually rebounded really well in that game. TCU's did. So what our guards have been doing is rebounding down. Well, now we have to box those guys out. And I thought their wing physicality was really where we ended up getting torched because, we've been teaching this to JT, so that's an area that we just haven't had a lot of problems. And these guys haven't gone through the length and the physicality every night. And I just thought we took a step back, and it's not an alarming deal for the future. It more is a great opportunity for us to make sure that our attention's on it moving forward and our guys understand the difference.
Grant, take me to the emotions of when you're in a game, your best player, Big 12 player of the year, he goes down, you probably assume it's pretty severe. You got to coach a game, and then you got to deal with the aftermath of the emotions of the player, the potential family, all that. What was that like to go through the game part and then the post game part of trying to compartmentalize, of actually still coaching the game, but worried about what really you're going to have to deal with JT and his family?
Yeah, when it happened, it was a transition play. He goes to the ground, and JT never stays on the ground. I mean, ever, And so, but this, with a few minutes left in the game, if you go out there, you have to sub him out. And when he hit the ground, he laid there, and I heard his teammate in high school is on our roster, and he's an unbelievable leader for us. Name's Jazz Henderson, and I just hear him yelling to JT like, "Get up, man, get up!" And I just know like he's trying to will JT into it, and JT looks at our trainer, who we're all really close. When you get to this point, Mike Neal's super close. He's like, "Mike, come here, I can't get," it popped, and then at that point everybody's no longer sighing a deep breath. You're like, this is sad. This is bad. So we help him get off, and we finished the game, and we ended up losing, obviously, at Arizona State. We go up into that coach's locker room, and Mike comes in and gives us the news that we probably didn't want to hear, and knew that he's like, this could possibly be his ACL, And at that point, I'm looking at our whole coaching staff, and there's guys crying in there, man. And that people think like it's tied to like where did our season go, man. Those dudes, when you're like this, it's like you love JT Toppin, you know what he means to us, and you know how hard this is going to be for him. And then we get the phone call in early part of the next day that let's go to the doctor's office and meet as a group. And his agent was in town, and just being in that doctor's office with JT when he got the news was really hard, because he's weeping. And I just put my arm around him and love him and say, I don't know why this happened, but I believe that there's some real growth that's going to come through this. And you don't have to know all the answers right now. Just know we love you, and you're going to be in this journey with everybody together. And whatever you're going to need out of this, you're going to be stronger because of it. And I believe that with my entire heart, man. And I just wanted him to hear that. And that's all I wanted him to hear, that we're going to be with him and that he's going to be better because of it. But it's okay to like be crushed by this. And I wanted our team to be crushed by it so that they could feel it and be there for JT and not act like we're moving on without him, because we're not. But how we're going to win needs to be different. And so I think walking everybody through that, but still having JT as the heart of our team, has kind of been the most important part moving forward, and believing that JT's best days are ahead, and so is our team's.
Well, Grant, I remember early in the season, I think particularly around the Duke game, when you had a number of injuries and you basically had no bench, and then you had foul trouble in that game. You talked about we're a no excuse program. I thought that was a great phrase, man. A no excuse program. So how do you apply that principle to what you're facing now as you turn and head to March Madness?
Yeah, I mean, what you do is you look at your next opponent and you go, how do we win this game? And I mean, that's the reality of this. Like, who plays is obviously a part of it, but the schedule still, I mean, that doesn't change, I mean, like, we play BYU, and that's what's happening on Saturday. So like, how do we win this game? And I'd tell you this, like, the joy of this is the guys and our staff that you get to do this with every day. It's not the result. It's the journey that you wake up and you get to see how you can make each other better. That's the heart behind this. And that's the part that takes away the individual component, which everybody seems to want to focus out on externally. And all these guys have such a pressure from their agent, from whoever's around them, to do individual things. But there's nothing like being a part of a team, man. Nothing.
So, Grant, this happened. We were, I guess, 2 weeks ago, we were doing the mock selection on that Thursday, and Seth was there with me, and it came up about what we do with Texas Tech. Then the top 16 reveal comes out on that Saturday, and you're still in the top 4 lines. Then you win later that afternoon. You end up winning 3 in a row, obviously, before the TCU game. And what that said to the world, essentially the college basketball world, was we are judging Texas Tech on the body of their work. And we're not going to say, oh, they don't have their best players, so let's knock them down, and knock them out of here, that you guys have been able to maintain. What did that tell you about the way the selection committee did view you at that moment and will view you now going forward?
Respectfully, I was like most people in the world, like, man, this is hard. I mean, it's difficult. So I don't blame anybody for saying they should be way lower seated. And then some people saying, let's judge them on their body of work but I get the benefit of watching us in practice every day. And I'm telling you this, and I believe this with all my heart. I think we got one of the best teams in college basketball, and I believe we can still win the whole thing. I think we got enough pieces that we're a legit, 3-4 seed in regards to how we're playing. And now, could you argue a 2? No. I mean, we beat TCU. I think we could have been in those discussions if we would have run the table in the Big 12. But I honestly think we got a top 4 seed team in regards to how we can compete and win in the Big 12 and in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I always use the word data, and we're going to have another week and a half of data to assess you and going through the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Grant, we know it's a busy time. It's a stressful time, but it is a joyful time, and we appreciate you sharing your joy with us. And it's a great message. It is about the journey. Please give our best to JT. Thanks for being with us on the Hoops HQ show.
I will. Y'all are so awesome for college basketball, man. Thank y'all for what you do. Really mean it. It's awesome. I'll tell JT and love being a part of it. Wreck 'em.
All right. Grant McCasland,
Thank you,
everybody.
Grant.
We'll be right back. We'll be right back after this. Wrapping things up on the Hoops HQ show. Okay, real quick, Andy. I know you don't like point spreads. I'm pinning you down, my brother. North Carolina at Duke. Your Blue Devils are favored by 16 points on KenPom. We think Caleb Wilson might be coming back from North Carolina in this one. Who you like? Duke minus 16.
Oh, you're making me take the points? Oh, God.
Yes, come on, man. You got to be a little bit of a degenerate.
I think they're going to win big.
I want to bring down your ethics is my goal here with this show.
All right. Well, all right, fine. I'm going to take Duke winning and the points then, if that's what you're going to make me do.
Yeah, I will too. I think Duke right now is playing the best of any team in the country. They'd be my pick to win it all. We got a little bit more time. Okay, Florida is -7 at Kentucky. The mercurial Kentucky Wildcats, who dropped a bad one on Tuesday night at Texas A&M, got blown out of the gym down the stretch. Who do you like in that one?
Boy, this is tough because I like Florida, but if you're going to make me pick the spread, I think it's going to be much closer than that because it's a road game.
Okay. Normally I would take the desperate home team, but Florida's just so good right now, man. And so I can't go against the Gators. So I'll take the Gators and I will lay the points. And finally, Michigan State on Sunday travels to Ann Arbor, Michigan. Wolverines favored by 9. Who you like?
I like Michigan because also Michigan State now is not in desperate situation. They were about 2 weeks ago, and now they've had some really good wins since the last Michigan game. So I think they're going to play a little looser. There's not the pressure that they have to win this game, that they have to cover the spread. But, I just think that I think Michigan's going to win in senior night. Just kind of a weird thing right now with senior night when there's no seniors that have not been there for more than a year.
Right.
But I think Michigan's going to win because Michigan State's going to not feel the pressure.
All right, he's landing the points. How big of a blow is it, by the way, to Michigan for LJ Kaysen to be gone?
It's significant for them because he was arguably one of the best 6 men in the country. And every time Cadeau, if he didn't got in foul trouble or, wasn't playing well, you just put in Kaysen, which actually happened where I am right now here at Welsh Ryan in the second half a couple weeks ago against Northwestern, led a 16-point comeback. So it does hurt them, but it's not going to derail them from potentially winning the title.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's a tough blow, but I would still list them as one of my top 3 teams in the country heading in the tournament. All right. Gosh, it's March, Andy. It's March. Enjoy your game at Northwestern. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thanks, Grant McCasland, for joining us. Check out all of our great content at hoopshq.com. So much to cover. The tournament, the bubble, the bracket. Selection Sunday is coming fast. For Andy Katz, I'm Seth Davis. We'll see you next time.